Hello, I'm Chuck Phillips, South Alabama Home Inspections, and welcome to another edition of Southern Home Talk. I'm going to do a video on what you should look out for as far as hiring a home inspector to perform a home inspection for you, but also more importantly, what to expect from a home inspection itself and also the inspector. And so this can vary from state to state. Some states have little to no standards for the inspector, so it's important that you do evaluate your home inspector, regardless of whether if you're in this state that requires certain standards or one that maybe requires little to none. But pretty much if a home inspector that's doing due diligence will do an inspection that's kind of focused to this right here: safety, functionality, defect, and it's a general condition inspection of the property. So I'm going to go ahead and start with safety. And what I do is I inspect outlets, at least the ones I can get to, with a tester to see if they're wired correctly, and also inspect for other potential electrical hazards. There's been reported safety issues with some panels that was installed in the past, and it can be more issues than just that as well. The lack of detectors like CO, smoke detectors, and heat detectors like there should be put in garages, heat detectors. Gas valves. If you have natural gas coming into the house, each appliance should have its independent cutoff, and that's usually a code requirement in many locations, but surprisingly I find the absence of these independent gas valves in new houses. No proper hand railing and structural issues with decks, but some of this hand railing issue could apply to staircases inside the home. Egress and windows, that's really where people may not open and close their windows at all, and what they get stove up and won't open. And so this is important, especially in bedrooms. If there is a fire, you need to be able to get out. And also test for or inspect for egress as well, because back in the 60s and 70s they were making houses where the windows are just not egressable, and so I will write that up as a safety issue if I discover that. The self-closing door, that's pretty much for the garage. That's the entry door from the house to the garage. That should be self-closing and fire rated, and other hazards as well. I could go on, but really there's just too many of them to list in the interest of keeping this video short. I'm just not going to go over all there is, but the home inspector should be looking out for as many safety issues as possible. It's also a functionality inspection as well. I test the plumbing, both the water supply and the drainage, to see if there's any potential issues with that. The electrical systems in other parts of the house. The HVAC system, I test that in whatever season that we're in. So we're in summer right now, so it'd be tested in the cool mode only, and primarily for that, a lot of these systems are heat pumps, and they can be damaged if they're running outside the temperature range. The built-in appliances like the dishwasher, oven, stove, the windows and doors, and the rest of the portions of the house to see if they function. The roof system, including the attic, and crawl space. Now, if the house has a crawl space, it absolutely needs to be inspected. And so I'm going to move on down to defects. I've kind of shortened this list here because defects can apply anywhere within the system of the home, but I kind of sort of wanted to put this right here in this short grouping. Foundation, and this can be kind of hard to inspect because many foundations are covered by ground level or also vegetation. The wall structure, and the same with it can be obstructed by vegetation as well. In fact, it's a pretty common problem here in the South. Moisture issues both inside and out, and all other visible areas of the structure. Now, what's not in the inspection? That's just as important as well. Well, it's not technically exhaustive. I don't test every mechanical setting, and then give you an example of that, like the oven. Does the high broil work? Does the low broil work? I just turn it on and see if it energizes and comes on and heats up, because there just isn't enough time to do this with every appliance. You'd be there all day just doing that. But also don't do load calculations. And it's not a code inspection. I'm going to stop right there too, even though code kind of crosses into some of what I inspect for. But there's been some people that have foregone home inspections because they've been told that, look, the house has been built to code. Well, number one, you don't even know if it's been code inspected. and number two, there's code is for the most part minimum standards, not maximum. And there's also things I disagree with code with. And it's not a cosmetic inspection either, because you can spend an entire day or maybe even several days just going over all the surface areas for maybe uneven baseboards and scuff marks, that sort of thing. Don't inspect yard sprinkler systems or alarm systems, low voltage systems, which would be like the landscape lighting around your flower beds, the grounds, the outbuildings and fences, pools and hot tubs. Now I'm going to stop at pools because I have lost a couple of jobs not doing these pool inspections, so I reached out to a friend of mine who works for a local pool company, and they do these, and I asked him how they went about doing these pool inspections. He says, well, there's really not much we can do other than go out and make sure that the pumps are running, and we will mark the liner to see if it has any leaks by coming back out the next day. He says, but really that's about the scope of what they do, and that's not much because the homeowner can be filling up the pool at night, so really marking the liner doesn't do much good, or potentially may not be. And so for that reason, I never went through with getting certified for inspecting pools, because I didn't see what service it would bring to you by doing so. But you know, if you think it would help you out, if you're buying a house with a pool, and you may want to go ahead and consider having a pool inspection performed. Now, it's also, I left this out, it's not a pest inspection either. And the reason why, even though I do find pest-related issues in the course of my inspections sometimes, really a pest inspection should be performed by a qualified pest control company, especially with the termites being as bad as they are in this area. And it takes a good bit of time to do a proper pest inspection. And there just isn't enough time for a home inspector to do that. Really, that needs to be a standalone inspection by itself. And it's also limited time and scope. So, blocked by contents, most of these houses are occupied, and as a result have contents in the home which can obstruct many areas from view. And some houses have more contents than others. Areas that are not readily accessible, and that goes back to the blocked by contents thing, they may have shelving up over sub panels that can't be accessed. It's not safe, and that's a good example of that. Be like the attic area. There's just no walkable areas up there, so I take a lot of photographs up there for that reason. It's limited in time, and not limited in time in the respect that I have to be at another inspection after yours because I only do one a day. But there's just only so long that the occupants can be inconvenienced by it. And even if it's not occupied, there's only so long that the owner will allow you to be there. And even though I try to find every issue I possibly can, it's not likely that me or anyone else is going to find every potential issue, but I do try to find as many as I possibly can within that time frame of the inspection. And that's the reason why, going down here to the client, so I would like for you to be there. The more eyes, the better. And I'm probably one of the few inspectors that encourage that. But I'd like for you to be at the very beginning of the inspection. There's some inspectors that don't mind you coming at the end, but I think it's good if you can be there at the very beginning to look out for these cosmetic issues as well. I'll give you a roll of blue painter's tape that you can mark those with. And it's going to be really important too. Well, I'm going to stick with this here for a second. Another thing too, if you're there at the inspection with me, I can kind of point out the mechanical systems of the home. And if there is any big issue, which I think may be a big issue, you'll be there to see it firsthand. But also too, after everything goes through, you want to do a very good walk-through inspection after all these contents are removed from the home, and hopefully they've cleaned it as well, because contents will cover up many issues, and sometimes they're put there on purpose to do just that. Now, if there's been any kind of a construction at that house over the last few years, it's also a good idea to maybe reach out to the building department and see if any permits were pulled. And also ask the seller about any warranties, especially if they had the roof redone or reshingled. It may have been performed to the state fortification standards, which will come with a certificate. And that certificate can save you quite a bit of money on your insurance if they have it, or if it was done to that standard, but also about the HVAC system as well. If, depending on who the manufacturer of it was, if that paperwork was filed correctly, it can extend this warranty out to about 10 years. But you also want to require about service manuals too, if they kept up with them. That at least give you the model numbers of whatever they go to, and also the service requirements for those. And also inquire about all the services that are connected to the house. This can be a little bit deceptive. I've found houses where it had a water meter out front, but it also was on well, and the well was in the neighbor's yard. What happened was the neighbor and them both shared the well, and so that's why it's important to inquire about these services that are connected to it. And a lot of people, they think, well, maybe it's on city service or city sewer. Well, they may have city sewer at the street, but the house could still be on septic too. So that's why it's really important you take the time to verify these services that are connected to it. Now, what to expect from me? Well, I'm going to give you a good written report with photographs, and also take the time to answer your questions and any concerns you may have. And you're going to see a lot of recommendations in my report too, and a lot of these recommendations are going to be geared to you being able to maintain the property after you get it, because of the climate that we live in down here. Is pretty brutal. A lot of these videos I have on Southern Home Talk address some of this as well. But also, a home inspector is not an expert in every field, and so you'll see language in that report where if I see an issue or a potential issue, we'll put in there, recommend further evaluation by a qualified electrician or plumber or whatever that potential issue could be. So I just want to kind of shorten this up right here. I mean, there's much more than what I've laid out, but I figured this will kind of give you a general idea of what to expect from a home inspection. And I also want to thank all my past clients for allowing me to be your inspector. And I also want to thank you for considering me to be your inspector at your home inspection if you're going to buy a house here anytime in the foreseeable future. And also, please like the Facebook page, because there's articles there, and subscribe to this channel as well, because I've tried to keep everybody updated with different videos at least 1 or 2 times a week. So most of all, thanks for taking the time to watch this video.